Hello and welcome to the Dons Trust Election 2024 Meet the Candidates. My name is Gary Davis and in this session we'll be meeting with Graeme Price. Hi Graeme.
Hi.
Please can you tell us about yourself and why we should vote for you in 2 minutes?
I'm talking about what I've done professionally. I'm talking about what I do for the club. What would you like me to cover? One of those. If I give a very brief, so my background is mainly in finance. I've been a pensioner trustee. I've worked in distribution. I've been a financial planner, wealth manager. I'm the trustee of 2 charities at the moment, very shortly. I've been involved in fundraising. I was party to the largest fundraising for a rugby club post England's World Cup win. So the skill set I have, I've applied to my role on the board and fundraising within the club. So I've been involved in, as some people who are listening to this will know, so I was involved in the setup of the We Are Wimbledon Fund originally when we had no playing budget, debentures, Plough Lane Bond, and a few other things as well along the way. So I'm one of the few people who hasn't got something on saying, I'll improve comms. That's never been my skill set or area, and I don't pretend. I can edit a document. I've done enough of that. So I've done a bit of marketing over the years, but the actual profession skill set required for comms, that's not my area, so I'm not going to make any bold claims about that. In terms of Wimbledon, like so many people involved, sort of just hauls you in, doesn't it? It hooks you in. I'm a great believer in doing things differently, and I love the fact that we are fan owned, and for me that's absolutely non-negotiable. I started off many moons ago. I moved to Wimbledon and started going to Plough Lane because it was just up the road. As I rented a place with friends from university. I didn't go very much at all during the years at Selhurst. I only went probably a couple of times a season at best. But then I started working with a guy called Alex Wilson at UBS. And he said, I seem to have gone to a lot of Wimbledon games previously because I was at the cup final and all the usual sort of stuff. And he said, why don't you come along? It's, non-league, it's fun. You'll get on with my mates. And it's gone from there, really. And there's from a club point of view, I suppose, official, the point I started getting involved was when Eric said, I hear you've done a bit of fundraising in the past. Can you help us? Because we haven't got enough money for the playing budget. And lo and behold, we end up where we are now. So it's one of those, I scratch my head and think, how on earth did I get here? But anyway, that's in a nutshell, that's how it's ended up.
Thank you, Graeme. So we now have 5 questions we are asking all candidates, and you have 2 minutes to answer each. So the first question is, what would be your strategy to plug the club's £1 to £2 million annual losses? And I think last year we reported in 2023, I think approximately 1.5 million loss.
Well, it depends how you define loss, of course, because really we're talking about operating. So let's ignore depreciation as an accounting piece. But there are 2 bits here in the finance, and we need to separate them out. And I don't think we have enough clarity around this. So one is operational cash flow, which is what you're talking about there. And there's lots of bits that need to be done there. And that's around understanding how to raise funds, what the priorities are. Now, the club is moving forward. We're getting more, we're sweating the asset. When the accounts come out, you'll see quite an uptick in turnover, and I'd expect to see another one despite the flood, which is obviously partially covered off by Doobs' fundraising. But anyway, so you've got what I would call day-to-day cash flow, and that's how we've got to get better at operations and fundraising. I mentioned fundraising because I think it's the price of being owners is perpetual fundraising, and it's part of us being responsible owners. So that's one half of it. The other half is how we finance and manage the debt, and that's capital. And that's where the equity vote came in, but it also is how we deal with that whilst we work out a way going forward. So they're two very different things that require very different solutions. I'm in favour of assuming that the costs aren't too large, which we can have a look at. I'm in favour of a rights issue to the existing PLC shareholders of the remaining 6% because it's not attractive. We know this. It's one of those. It's big enough to make a difference for a period of time. It's not significant enough to it's just not significant enough to attract somebody who can put substantial capital in. So I would have a rights issue. I would also have a new share issue for the remaining money to our existing members.
Thank you. Question 2, Graeme. If you could change one thing about the Dons Trust, what would it be and why?
I would change the attitude to theme groups. I think we need to make more use of them, and we need to use the theme groups to co-opt in bigger skill sets. So the first theme group that actually brought anybody in from the outside is the fundraising group, which I chair. And I've also suggested 2 other people to potentially sit on the members' engagement. I think we need to make greater use of the skills. I've said this time and time again, we need to make greater use of the skill sets that exist in our fan base. And we should be more open to asking for particular skill sets and put it on the official site. Other than that, there are obviously tweaks and little things you can do around certain projects, but that would be the main thing I would seek to do elsewhere outside of the fundraising group, obviously, because we've already actioned that.
Thank you, Graeme. Question number 3. What is your stance on fan ownership, and how do we thrive as a club under the current fan ownership model?
When you say current model, we can talk about the equity. As I said at the outset, I believe that we are one club, indivisible, and that fan ownership is non-negotiable. From a personal point of view, if we weren't fan owned, I wouldn't be involved. End of. So we've done a lot of things to protect that. We can talk about the protections, but that doesn't answer how we can make it successful. To thrive, we need to continue to professionalize. We need to grow our revenues, but we've got to be aware as well that we're running a different model. So let's not freak out that we've dropped 2 places in the football budget table or whatever. As long as we are growing, so as long as we're managing debt, growing our revenue streams, and growing our playing budget on an organic basis, then it's fine. It might take us longer to get there, but we will get there. However, we need to look at financial realities of where we are at the moment, because the Plough Lane bonds, because there's 2 of them, simply bought us time. It wasn't a solution. And as I referred to the 6% earlier on, that buys us further time. It is not the ultimate solution. So the ultimate solution is to grow everything, but also look at how we can use funding for capital projects, or how we can raise funding for capital projects, which will also grow the club. So whether it's buying a training ground or putting the money up that we're required, because we don't know how much we'll require yet. Some of that will depend on Merton, or how we expand the capacity of the ground. We know we could sell more seats, for example, in the south stand. It's the first stand that sells out. It's the hardest one to get a ticket for. That's about it, really. There's a lot more to it, but
Sure. Thank you, Graeme. Question number 4. How would you describe the trust standing amongst members, and how would you seek to improve that relationship?
We're in the comms territory here, aren't we? I don't agree with the narrative of broken trust. I think that was OTT, to be honest. And I would suggest that the turnout figures in the latest vote don't match that narrative. Can the trust engage better with members? Yes. There's a lot of things have been added in the last few months, last year, We've started with a meeting for the 16 to 24s. I think we need to do more there. We we could make more use of other media channels and better use than we do. But as I say, this is not my area of expertise, and I really would defer to others who have greater knowledge in this area. I'll do anything to support them. I'm always there. You can always find me at a game. Usually I'm at the kiosk if I'm not on board duty or not standing in the side stand. I'm always around after the game in the Phoenix, and I go to an awful lot of away games. So I'm dead easy to spot on the train. I don't always wear this jumper, but this makes it even easier to spot me, of course. But anyway, yeah, I'm around. I'm dead easy to pick out.
Thanks, Graeme. So the last of the five. So question 5: do you believe the trust board is elected to make decisions for the members, or elected to listen to members on an ongoing basis? And would you be looking to consult members more or less?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Technically, we're elected as representatives, not delegates. However, we're there to represent the members. Funnily enough, we've had a lot of complaints this year that there are too many surveys, which is part of a consultation process. And it's a wide consultation process. There is a balance. Yet again, we're into an area that I'm not an expert in as to whether the balance is right or wrong. But yeah, as my dad used to say, there's a clue. You've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So yes, you got to listen. And foolish not to. It's a case of how we can gather information across the wider membership, so that we've got very committed, and in some instances vociferous, but we have a group of very committed fans. It's a bit like an onion, isn't it? There's layers, and it's to how much you can gain information from outside of the core as well. The core are often right, but sometimes their view is not reflective of the wider view, and vice versa. You can have a view, but there are simply times at which you can't release all information. So it's a bit like a compass, isn't it? You can put a rational argument together, but if you start from 1 degree off, when you've marched 5 miles, you're a long way away from where you actually wanted to get to. So it's a tough one, but there is a balance to be struck.
Thank you, Graeme. So we're asking each candidate one question directly from their manifestos, and you have 3 minutes if you want to answer this. So Graeme, in your manifesto you state, if the price of democracy is eternal vigilance, then the price of fan ownership is eternal financial activism. Could you tell us what you mean by financial activism, and how you might help to put that into effect as a board member?
So this comes back to my earlier comments about fundraising, about different areas. We need to act as responsible owners. Simply saying I'm an owner, I've got a vote, is not the be all and end all. Of course, it's important, and it's the way in which we all express ourselves as members. But if you look at any other club who have a different model, then until recently, of course, a lot of them put directors' loans in, but people are putting money in. So there is our greatest strength is our greatest weakness, and vice versa. We don't have somebody who's just got bottomless pockets to put money in. Although over the years we've had several very, very generous fans have helped the club along the way, notably the likes of Ian McNay, etc. But there's more than Ian have put money into the club over the years. So therefore, our strength is in our collective, and that means getting together and targeting areas which there are lots of things which would be nice to do. There are things that improve. If it improves the fan experience on a match day, that helps us take more money, tick. If it's something that adds to the growth of the club, tick. So one is the fundraising for specific projects. When you have a list of priorities, you start your day off, you have 20 things on the list, and you think, I'm never doing 20, but I'll try and target 3 to get done today. Well, those ones in that bottom 10 are the ones that basically fall into nice to do or will get done eventually. And a lot of those aren't big items. They don't on their own move the dial, but they do help on incremental gains. I'm very David Brailsford, so apologies about that. But anyway, and that's where we can help the most. And it just needs visibility. So one of the exercises that's going on at the moment is to ascertain the priorities within the club in terms of projects, because they'll carve out into different groups, because as you can imagine, some of it's capital raise, some of it's to improve operations, etc. And once we've been given the priorities by the football side and by the operations side, we can look at those and we can carve them out between different groups and we can target them in different ways. And that's pretty much what I mean, because there's some things are perpetual. Some campaigns will just run and run. So one of the people have been talking about how do we do all this. We're going to have fundraising and all of the bits around donation on a more central basis on the website. So that's the framework from which we can hang all of this off.
So that brings us to the end of our questions. So thank you for your time today, Graeme, and all the best with your campaign.
Thank you.
Viewers can watch all candidate interviews on our YouTube channel. To vote, members should have a link in their inboxes. The deadline for voting is December the 3rd, and you can find all candidate manifestos at the donstrust.org. Thank you for watching.